Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone never made any secret of her ambition to become the most successful female recording artist of all time. For 2 decades, she has provoked storms of outrage and controversy through her songs, videos, stage performances, film roles, and books, deliberately provoked as part of a superb exercise in self-promotion. Now, her phenomenal work rate and extraordinary ability to reinvent herself have seen her safely through to iconic status. Does she deserve it? Or is hers no more than average talent hyped by brilliant marketing and constant repackaging into a career that dazzles but has no real substance? She has certainly succeeded in her ambition. Her album sales topped 200 million, and her 2006 Confessions tour grossed close to $200 million, the highest earning concert tour ever for a female artist. Whatever else she is, Madonna is truly the queen of pop. Melita Morgan is a Madonna lookalike. She is one of the millions who see her as a great artist and role model, and she has made a career impersonating her.
There's something much more than an artiste and a musician about Madonna. If she wants something, she'll go out and get it, you know. I love the fact that she inspires women, and she has done a lot over the years to help women to feel, you know, there's a lot more to them than meets the eye, and they can achieve so much more if they really, really want to, you know. And I think she's done that to so many women.
Madonna is totally awesome. She's so great. She's gorgeous. She's so gorgeous. And she's so unique.
In 1985, the term wannabe was coined to describe the avid fans who seek to act, dress, and talk like their idol, Madonna. So who is the person who generates this extraordinary loyalty and adulation? How and why did she achieve her status as a megastar? For a singer whose career has been marked by startling changes of direction, Madonna's musical roots are firm. She was born a Motown girl. Her father, Silvio Ciccone, one of 6 sons of an Italian immigrant family, settled in Detroit, Michigan, and found work as an engineer with the Chrysler Automotive Corporation. Her French-Canadian mother, Madonna Fortin, was 3 months pregnant in February 1958 when Michigan suffered heavy snowfalls that made national news. She was carrying her 3rd child, a girl, who would be christened Madonna Louise. The car industry was always vulnerable to strikes, steel shortages, and economic downturns. Layoffs were an inescapable fact of life for many who were employed in the automotive plants of Detroit. And years later, the girl who was born on August 16, 1958, used that gritty background to embellish her life story.
There's a little bit of a Madonna myth that she came from quite a poor family, and that it was a rags to riches kind of, you know, path to fame. But really, she wasn't poverty-stricken, but then again, it wasn't really a rich family. And the whole ethos of the family was the work ethic and discipline and chores. And
I think sometimes taking elements from that type of environment and then trying to show, well, I ran away from that, I survived that. I think that might be a type of rags to riches. It's the rags of being imprisoned to the freedom of being totally liberated.
The truth was that Silvio Ciccone, known as Tony to his friends, worked hard to provide a comfortable, middle-class life for his growing family. There was a lot of noise, laughter, and sibling rivalry among the 6 children. There were also strict rules of behavior. Madonna, who always hated to be told what to do, was the defiant one.
Madonna used to put on lots of little shows for her family at home. There was the famous Shirley Temple one where she used to dance on the table and flick up her skirt and show her pants to the family. And this was her means of gaining attention from her parents, because she was one of 6 children. And she was the one who most wanted the attention of her mother and father. And so I think she realized fairly early on that a little bit of a naughty gesture was going to do the trick, and it always did.
Whether it's, you know, physically, emotionally, whatever. We think of exhibitionism as being kind of crude. And I think what Madonna's done is turned exhibitionism into an art form, essentially.
That's really been the thread throughout her whole life, is just to be a performer. And it might be tasteful to some, it might be tacky to others, but that's Madonna.
Motherhood has a special significance for Madonna because her own mother died of breast cancer in 1963 at the cruelly young age of 30. Madonna, who was only 5 at the time, has said that the anguish she felt left me with a kind of loneliness and an incredible longing for something, claiming that this is the root cause of why her life has been so driven.
She decided there and then that she was going to be the best at everything. She stated that having been dealt that sort of blow at that young age, that nothing could ever hurt her so seriously again. And this gave her the outer shell that she still has to a large extent. And it manifested itself in much of her later work.
That hard shell protected her through most of her career. The softer Madonna that exists under the hard shell is something we have only come to see in relation to children now that she has some of her own.
I can see that I'm making a very good impression on you.
Her relationship with her own father soured after her mother's death and remained rocky for many years. Dance was at the center of Madonna's life through her teens. In 1972, she enrolled at the Rochester School of Ballet, which was run by the man whom Madonna was to describe as my mentor, my father, my imaginative lover, my brother, Christopher Flynn.
He saw something in her that he thought was very special. She, for her part, felt that she had discovered a niche for herself and that ballet was the thing that she'd been looking for in her life. So Christopher Flynn later moved to the University of Michigan, so he encouraged her to apply for a scholarship there, which she did, and she won her scholarship, and she stayed there for a year and a half.
She enjoyed her time at college, but knew that if she was going to make it as a performer, she had to head for where all the action was, New York. In July 1978, a few weeks short of her 20th birthday, she boarded a plane and flew to New York. Outside her family, the person who missed her most was a gifted drummer who played in a band in Detroit. He and Madonna had become an item after she spotted him working as a nightclub waiter. His name was Steve Bray, and he was struck by what he called her aura of ambition. A few years later, he would discover just how ruthless that ambition could be. The story goes that Madonna arrived in New York with just $37 in her pocket and asked the taxi driver to drop her in the middle of everything. He put her down in Times Square, the heart of the city's pornography, drug, and prostitution district. It was love at first sight. Bold, pushy, and pulsing with energy, the Big Apple was just the place for the girl with the big ambition.
Madonna's escape from Michigan to New York was exactly what she needed to do that in that point in time, coming from such a oppressive living situation and then going to New York where every opportunity is available to you if you work hard enough.
I think Madonna is very much a New York story. I mean, she's one of these people like Andy Warhol, like Truman Capote. You know, it really is the New York dream to come here from nowhere, basically, and invent yourself.
It's, I have to pinch myself. I can't believe it's happening. I'm thrilled. It's happened before in my life, but every time it does happen, I'm still completely gobsmacked by it. So.
She had an advantage in being named Madonna. If you look at Andy Warhol, he came here and had to change his name to Andy Warhol. You know, Madonna just had to come here and be Madonna.
For a while, she worked as a hat check girl in the famous Russian Tea Room on West 57th Street. Another minimum wage job came to a sticky end when, by her own admission, Dunkin' Donuts sacked her for squirting donut jelly over a customer who was hassling her. She found herself a squalid slum to live in, a dilapidated walk-up apartment on 4th Street and Avenue B. It has since been renovated, but when her father came to visit her, there were drunks in the stinking hallway, and the 5th-floor apartment was Cockroach City. He was horrified and begged her to come home.
Her brother Christopher has since said that Madonna has built a lot of legend around this period in New York, but at the same time, there's no doubt she actually was very, very poor. She was rifling bins for food, apparently. She was taking like really menial jobs just to make ends meet.
Remembering this period in her life, Madonna herself claims to have eaten out of garbage cans and sat beside the fountains in Lincoln Center in tears, writing in her diary about her lonely life in the big city. At least she didn't look out of place. Punk was in full swing. The Sex Pistols had just imploded in the middle of their U.S. tour. Not long after her arrival in the city, Sid Vicious was charged with the stabbing of Nancy Spungen in the Chelsea Hotel. At first, she joined the beautiful nobodies who flocked to the legendary Studio 54 Club, hoping to be picked to mix with the glamorous celebrities inside. Soon, she became a regular guest. Drugs were rampant, and the club was notorious for just about every kind of excess. More than a quarter of a century later, Madonna was to recreate the decadent style of Club 54 for her Confessions on a Dance Floor tour. For a while, she worked as a model, posing nude for photographers. It was better money than waiting tables, but, as with many other female artists before and since, the pictures, tame as they were, came back to haunt her once she became famous. She continued to take dance classes and grabbed whatever work she could find, including a period working in Paris as a dancer and backup vocalist for Patrick Hernandez. People remember her as talented, hard-working, focused, and determined to hold center stage. But she quickly realized that in the brutally competitive world of dance, it might take her several years to break into a major company. She simply hadn't got time, and dance was only a means to the stardom she craved. She learned to play guitar and drums and started singing with a band. Soon she was fronting it. It caused friction. The band saw her as a member of the group. She wanted to be the main attraction. In the same year, 1979, Madonna took her first acting role in Stephen Lewicki's A Certain Sacrifice, a low-budget soft porn movie that featured her as a dominatrix indulging in human sacrifice. The film was released 2 years later and quickly died a death. But the acting role gave her a fetish image that she was later able to exploit. After the break with Breakfast Club, Madonna took up again with her old friend from Michigan, Steve Bray. They worked and lived in the Music Building, a collection of rehearsal halls and studios where a lot of bands hung out. For a year, he and Madonna wrote songs that she performed around New York with Steve backing her on drums. The band was called Emmy, much to Madonna's disgust. She thought it should be called Madonna. The sound was punky, hard-edged rock and roll. When Emmy didn't seem to be going anywhere, she found herself increasingly frustrated.
If she was working in this band with other musicians, you can imagine that it was probably very difficult to have her own ideas of who she was and the types of songs that she wanted to sing, and then have the other members who were men and probably had a difficult time sort of dealing with a very strong female personality. I think that's probably what led to the dissolution of the band.
After splitting with Emmy, Madonna signed with Camille Barbone, an agent who had an office in the Music Building. The two became very close, and Camille invested a lot of time and money showcasing her client. She can also take credit for creating the first Madonna wannabes, paying young girl fans to accessorize themselves like their idol. She also organized a new band to back her client. Naturally, it was called Madonna.
Madonna reportedly flirted outrageously. Camille responded by paying for everything that Madonna needed or wanted, did everything she could to further her career. But Madonna again was quick to dump Camille when she decided that rather than pursuing rock music, she was going to pursue kind of funky dance music. And so Camille was another one who was sort of left heartbroken by the loss of the friendship more than the loss of the client, really.
After a blazing row with Camille, Madonna walked out and returned to her old friend and lover, Steve Bray. She took odd jobs, including singing backing vocals for Ozzy Osbourne. Meanwhile, she and Steve were writing songs and producing demos that Madonna would hawk around New York's club DJs. It was at Manhattan's Danceteria Club on West 21st Street that she pitched a demo at resident DJ Mark Kamins. He was impressed, all the more so because he'd watched Madonna dancing in the club and understood that her modest vocal talent was matched by a phenomenal visual presence. Kamins tried the tape out on his audience and was knocked out by the reception that the song Everybody received from the club crowd. He offered to secure Madonna a record deal and produce her first album. She became his lover. It was the start of a passionate, fruitful, but short-lived relationship. Kamins used his connections to get Michael Rosenblatt at Warner Brothers Records to listen to a demo tape. He liked what he heard and offered her a record deal, subject to approval by Seymour Stein, president of Warner's Sire Records. Stein was in hospital recovering from heart surgery. Madonna went to see him. She was unfazed to find him sitting by his bed in his underpants with a drip in his arm. She turned on the charm. Stein liked what he saw. The deal was done on the spot and sealed by Stein kissing her hand. Madonna was on her way.
At first, you would not have known that this woman was going to be a major star, because her first single, Everybody, didn't even have a picture sleeve, and it didn't make the Hot 100. It was a dance hit.
Her music has always been dance music. That's, you know, if you have to classify it as any one thing, that's what she makes, is dance music and club music.
Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of Madonna. Steve Bray and Mark Kamins both saw it as payback time for all the work they'd put in to promote her career. Both expected to produce her first records. Both were disappointed. When Sire offered to bankroll an album, Madonna ditched them and gave the job to the hottest producer around, Steve Lucas.
Anytime somebody becomes successful, it's easy for people who were kind of part of it along the way to get resentful or feel like they're not getting enough credit. But I think all those people have also benefited from working with her because she's Madonna.
As she put it herself, she traveled through people. A lot of the people that have had this experience with Madonna have not actually carried a grudge at all. Anyone who went out with Madonna would really know that the deal was her career was the most important thing and everything else came second.
In the event, Madonna didn't like the job Lucas did on the album and handed it over to her new lover, John Jellybean Benitez, to rearrange and remix. The album, titled simply Madonna, was a hit. 5 tracks released as singles made the top 5 in the U.S. dance chart: Everybody, Burning Up, Holiday, Borderline, and Lucky Star.
She was probably underestimated by pretty much everybody when her first album came out, because nobody could have guessed, you know, how determined she was, and also that she, somewhere within herself, you know, had the ability to fulfill all of these ambitions that she very obviously had.
Madonna's arrival on the scene just as the pop video took off as an art form was perfect timing. The video for Borderline, showing Madonna as a street girl toying with the boys, was directed by Mary Lampert, and its success on MTV was the shape of things to come.
People don't really realize this because they lump Michael Jackson and Madonna together as the two early founding iconic stars of MTV. But Michael Jackson had, we now know, just peaked. His greatest work was already done, and Madonna's was just about to begin.
From her very first videos, she was always, you know, she's just a natural in front of the camera. Having the videos made her into Madonna.
Her videos and her being a presence on MTV really helped facilitate the growth of a captive audience.
By 1984, Madonna and Steve Bray had made up their differences and collaborated to write songs for her second album, Like a Virgin. It was an instant hit, catapulting her to the top of the charts. She debuted like a virgin at the MTV Awards in a raunchy performance that saw her rolling around the floor in a wedding veil, bustier, stockings, and garters. She clearly remembered the lesson she had learned as a child when standing on the table to sing Shirley Temple songs. If you want to get attention, flash your panties.
She couldn't just stand there and sing the song. She had to do something that was spectacular.
I don't think anything Madonna has ever done publicly has been spontaneous. And herein is the greatest strength of her career. Things don't happen by accident.
It didn't matter that the music press dismissed her as a one-hit wonder and derided her voice as being like Minnie Mouse on helium. It didn't matter that religious organizations condemned her as a sacrilegious slut, while solemn psychiatrists attacked her lyrics for encouraging prostitution. It didn't matter that parents were outraged by her trashy appearance. The controversy merely generated sales and encouraged rebellious kids to expose their belly buttons and adopt the fingerless lace gloves, wild hair, crucifix earrings, and underwear as outerwear. Sales of Like a Virgin hit 75,000 a day, and a 3-night Madonna concert at Radio City Music Hall sold out in just 35 minutes. She had 6 songs at once in the top 40. The Like a Virgin tour was a phenomenal success, and Madonna was able to renegotiate her record contract, including an $8 million advance up front. Why should she care about what the critics said?
I think Madonna is a genius for self-promotion because she's fearless. Just when you think that you have heard enough of her or that you've seen her with that hairstyle, she comes along with another, new and funky hairstyle, and then 6 months later, everyone is having that hairstyle.
Every time she makes a new video, I think she's looking for a way to get your attention all over again.
In the video for Material Girl, Madonna mimicked Marilyn Monroe's performance of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend from the film Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Monroe was a tragic figure who, like Madonna's mother, died young. She fascinated Madonna and continues to do so. Time and again throughout her career, Madonna has paid homage to Hollywood's most legendary actress in her style and appearance.
It was Marilyn Monroe who made her want to be a movie star, who made her want to have blonde hair, to wear pointy bras, and everything in that way that Marilyn Monroe did, Madonna did, multiplied by 10.
Where Madonna trumps Marilyn Monroe is that Madonna is not a victim. Madonna probably used the impact of Marilyn Monroe's image and the type of effect that she had on people to sort of direct what she did for her own career.
Madonna's fascination with Marilyn Monroe fueled her ambition to step up from being a singer and pop video performer to become a movie star. She took a big step towards that when she accepted a part in Desperately Seeking Susan, directed by independent filmmaker Susan Seidelman. It was a supporting role, but the brash bohemian lifestyle of the character and her appearance, bangles, beads, shades, lace gloves, hair scarves, heavy mascara, and scarlet Cupid's bow lips was perfect for Madonna. Some of the scenes in the movie were shot in Danceteria, where Madonna first came to the attention of DJ Mark Cammons. It remains among her most acclaimed performances, and Susan became one of the 5 top-grossing movies of 1985.
The character she played was actually a lot more rootless than Madonna. Madonna was very, very focused, but she was the same sort of sparky, tough street nut, very attractive in a kind of smart-ass way, very, very much like herself.
When you see Desperately Seeking Susan, you don't see Susan, which is her character's name, you see Madonna. And it was even publicized as the Madonna movie back in 1985. Now, that's not any accident, that's not any marketer's mistake. It was Madonna's movie, and she didn't really have to stretch to play that character.
I don't think anyone is attracted to playing a part that they don't feel like there's something of them in it. She's not me completely. She does a lot of things in the movie that I don't think I ever would do. She makes choices I don't think I'd ever make. But I do understand her vulnerability.
Madonna's meteoric rise to fame had taken its toll on her private life. There was at least one abortion, and her stormy relationship with Jellybean Benitez ended in self-destruction. For a short while in 1985, she dated Prince. They recorded a song or two together, but it would be hard to think of a couple who were more ill-matched. Madonna, the brash and forthright material girl. Prince, the shy and secretive eccentric. Pretty soon, he became the artist formerly known as Madonna's boyfriend. But now, a new man entered her life. A movie star with the image of a rebellious outsider reminiscent of James Dean. Just her type. He was Sean Penn, and when he met Madonna, he was enjoying critical acclaim for his role as drug dealer and convicted spy Dalton Lee in John Schlesinger's The Falcon and the Snowman. They were clearly made for each other, but in one respect they were totally at odds. Madonna courted publicity and reveled in attention. Penn had always loathed the press. When a bunch of balloons arrived in their hotel room, together with a message that said, "Congratulations, Mom and Pop, how about an exclusive?" a reference to the rumor that Madonna was pregnant, Sean stormed out and decked a couple of photographers. He was fined $50 and received a 90-day suspended sentence. On another occasion, he served jail time.
Sean Penn was absolutely fanatical about guarding his privacy. Madonna thrived on the oxygen of publicity. That's what she did. That's what she needed. She would never, ever have agreed to live the life that Sean Penn wanted her to live.
Madonna had publicly banned the press from her wedding, a sure means of provoking media frenzy. Guests were only to learn the location on the day. Sean believed that she really wanted a quiet wedding. But then, surprise, surprise, the details leaked, and the open-air ceremony at Point Dume, Malibu, was invaded by press helicopters. The guests were buffeted by prop wash. No one could hear a word above the clatter of the rotors. "Welcome to the remake of Apocalypse Now," shouted Sean, pointing his rifle at the paparazzi. Angrily, Madonna gave the helicopters the finger. "She's a marketing genius," was her brother's comment. Shortly afterwards, the couple found themselves in Macau filming for George Harrison's movie Shanghai Surprise, a period piece about a missionary in China. As Madonna envisioned it, it would have something of the charm of the African Queen. It didn't work out like that. Harrison later remarked, "We had the wrong script, the wrong director, and the wrong stars." Shanghai Surprise flopped, and Madonna won a Razzie Award for Worst Actress. She had the perfect answer to her critics. Her third album, True Blue. The album went straight to #1. Worldwide sales of 24 million make it her most successful non-compilation album ever. The 5 individual tracks released as singles were all hits.
When True Blue came out, she cut her hair. She went platinum blonde. And I think people gravitated towards this new Madonna. And had she done a third album that was in the same vein of the first album and Like a Virgin, people would have been less interested, but Madonna knew what she was doing.
The first track released as a single, Papa Don't Preach, caused an immediate storm of controversy, as Madonna had known it would. It harked back to tenement girl in trouble songs like the Supremes' Love Child. In it, a young girl tells her father that she's pregnant and determined to keep her baby. Pro-lifers lined up to praise what they saw as an anti-abortion song. The liberal left slated her for condoning teenage pregnancy. Madonna refused to be drawn in and lapped up the publicity. The leaner look that Madonna displayed for True Blue was the result of a punishing exercise regime that included a 10-mile run every day and a strict vegetarian diet. She was only a couple of years off 30, and she knew she could only keep in shape and maintain her energetic performance style if she worked at it. A violent Thanksgiving row between Madonna and her husband in November 1987 ended with Madonna's lawyers serving divorce papers on Penn. She withdrew them 12 days later, but the marriage was on the skids. It would be a further year before they divorced, but Madonna distanced herself from Penn and concentrated on her career. This included her first Broadway stage role in David Mamet's three-hander Speed the Plow.
What do you think of the idea of Madonna being in this play tonight?
Why not?
Are you a fan of hers?
She's a performer. Why can't she perform here, right? Good for her.
She found the discipline of performing the same unglamorous role every night grueling. Predictably, the critics praised the play and panned Madonna. Equally predictably, her name on the marquee sold the play out for 6 months.
It felt like really good sex.
Along with the other celebrities in the first night audience was Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Probably it wasn't Madonna's performance that drew her to the theater, but the relationship between the pop diva and her son, John F. Kennedy Jr. The press were quick to latch on to the curious fact that the single biggest influence in Madonna's career, the character she revered and frequently copied in her photo sessions, was Marilyn Monroe. And the entire world knew that Monroe had had an illicit affair with John's father, President John F. Kennedy. The Monroe connection meant that any ideas Madonna might have had about marrying Kennedy were doomed from the start. It was never going to happen. The gossip mongers soon had something else to talk about. Madonna's new best friend was actress Sandra Bernard, who introduced Madonna to New York's lesbian subculture. Soon, the two of them were seen socializing in the girl bars. Tongues started wagging. Were they having a lesbian affair? Later, she claimed that it was all a game and that the press had failed to get the joke. Maybe, but she has never made any secret of her bisexuality, and she knew that playing the gay card just added to the intrigue that surrounded her. On January 25, 1989, Sean Penn and Madonna divorced. Neither of them has ever spoken about the incident that finished the marriage. But on the previous 28th of December, Madonna staggered into the Malibu sheriff's office, bruised, weeping, and bleeding from a cut lip. She provided details of a 9-hour ordeal in which Penn had broken into the house, tied her up, and subjected her to physical abuse. The police arrested Penn and charged him with battery and inflicting corporal injury. Penn's account was that it had never amounted to much more than a screaming match and a drunken threat to cut off her hair. In the end, Madonna declined to press charges, but now the marriage really was over.
It's difficult for any two famous people to stay together, as we all know from the tabloids and everything else. And then I think especially when you have two very strong, determined people, it's surprising they stayed together as long as they did, really.
It was time to get on with her career. By now, she was one of the biggest stars in the world, and maybe the commercially safe thing to do would have been to give her fans more of the same. But Madonna was determined to push on. Yes, it would be a dance album, co-produced as before with Steve Bray and Patrick Leonard, but in Madonna's own words, "I wanted the album to speak to things on my mind. It was a complex time in my life." The result was Like a Prayer, a complex mix of rock, pop, dance, soul, and funk. It was a huge commercial and critical success. Pepsi paid her $5 million to feature her and Like a Prayer in a global commercial and spent another $5 million to get it on television.
The trouble began when Pepsi saw Madonna's own video for the song Like a Prayer, which was aired on MTV, and that was the most controversial video she ever made in her life.
In Like a Prayer, Madonna has burning crosses. They dropped her because of this, because people were, how can you support this woman who, is denouncing, the Catholic Church, and oh my gosh, there's a black Jesus in her video and she's kissing him.
She probably recognized better than Pepsi did what position she was in, and that it was going to work out well for her no matter what, essentially.
And Madonna survived it. She didn't need Pepsi. Pepsi needed her.
In many ways, Like a Prayer is Madonna's most personal work, filled with ambiguous carnal and religious imagery. The title track, in her own words, is about the influence of Catholicism in my life and the passion it provokes in me. Clearly, there were issues still to resolve. For her 1990 Blonde Ambition tour, Madonna worked to create the sleekest, most sinewy, muscled body shape she'd ever achieved. It had nothing to do with vanity and everything to do with the fact that for every performance, she'd be dancing non-stop and belting out songs for 2 hours on stage. It was the best choreographed and most spectacular show yet, and the most blatantly sexual. Famously, it featured Madonna in her Gaultier cone bras. The main man in her life in 1990 was a Hollywood legend, both as an actor and as a babe magnet. Warren Beatty might be 52 years old, but he was still a potent sex symbol. He wanted her for the part of Breathless Mahoney in the movie he was producing and directing, Dick Tracy. He loved the fact that she'd tried to have her breasts insured for $12 million. She loved the attention. One track on the album had nothing to do with the movie. It was Vogue, based on the gay dance style that involved freezing in magazine cover poses. Voguing had been around for a while, but it was Madonna that brought it into the mainstream. The single sold a phenomenal 6 million, making it one of the biggest hits in music history.
She has had the ability that David Bowie had in the 70s to keep the ear to the artistic ground and pick up on something which the general public doesn't know about yet, to incorporate it into one's own act and get the credit for it. Example, voguing. Voguing was started by the beautiful drag queens of Harlem, and there was the documentary film about them. The general population did not see this. Well, she must have. And so Vogue, one of her biggest hits, comes from people who never earned a penny for it. I'm not saying she exploited them, she just popularized what they did. And that is what she was a mistress of. She is fabulous for paying attention to what is happening in popular music and getting to someone or somewhere before anybody else does.
With her Immaculate Collection hits compilation album, released in the same year, Madonna reached her peak. The album has gone on to sell 26 million units, 2 million more than True Blue. And Madonna had discovered a new marketing strategy. The video for one of the tracks, Justify My Love, featured Madonna in full Marilyn Monroe mode, interrupting an orgy. The action included some mild sadomasochism. Madonna herself engaged in a deep lesbian kiss. MTV pulled the video at the last moment, announcing that it was too steamy to air.
I think Justify My Love was very well calculated because it was too much for MTV to show, but it was just a little too much for MTV to show. I mean, she didn't go and make like a hardcore pornographic video or something like that. She just kind of pushed at the edge enough to, you know, go just over the edge.
Talk about her being a self-marketer. That was genius. Make this video, you know that people are going to be uncomfortable by it, but then that will just create even more talk about it, and people will want to see, well, why is it being banned?
Lucky me, said Madonna, as the video hit the stores and sold over 400,000 copies. Not so lucky, as it turned out, because now the relentless forward progress of her career faltered. Her next album, Erotica, was conceived as an exploration of different facets of sexuality. To accompany it was her book, Sex. It featured explicit text by Madonna and porn photographs simulating sexual acts by her and other models. A classic Madonna mix of lesbianism, sadomasochism, and rape. The first edition of 1.5 million copies sold out in a couple of days. The critics hated it, of course, and for once, the record-buying public appeared to agree with them.
She's a good actress, good singer, but she's gone too far.
Oh, something ought to be done about her.
I think it's great.
I think it's... I don't like it.
Album sales of Erotica were, by Madonna's standards, disappointing. It seemed she had miscalculated. She claimed to be trying to demystify sex in her record and her book. But to many it appeared that she was just trying to see how naughty she could be and get away with it. Madonna forged onwards, undeterred by the public response to Erotica and to her 2 movies released in 1993. Body of Evidence, a third-rate rehash of Basic Instinct, was described by one critic as celluloid garbage. Dangerous Game didn't improve matters. Fine for her hardcore fans and the Dirty Mac Brigade was the consensus. She threw herself into The Girly Show, a 20-date tour. Significantly, only 5 of them were in the U.S., where she was taking the most flack. The characteristic image she presented was of a masked and whip-cracking dominatrix. Her fans didn't care. Anything she did was all right by them. But not for the public as a whole. The low point in her career was her 1994 performance on David Letterman's show, in which she seemed intent on trashing her image further.
Apparently she used the F word 13 times. She wanted David Letterman to sniff her panties. She talked about peeing in the shower.
Letterman said, "Do you know the show is being broadcast?" And it's like, I don't care. You know, this is what people expect of me, and I'm going to give it to them. And if they can't handle it, well, even better.
That she was trying to show that, okay, well, if the culture is going to get even coarser, then I can get coarser too, and I can go on TV and swear at David Letterman and, you know, really show them just how tough I am.
Madonna set about repairing the damage to her image with her 10th studio album, Bedtime Stories, that presented a softer, less strident side of her personality. The title track and Secret both reached #1 in the dance charts, while Take a Bow topped the Hot 100 chart.
Madonna wanted to ensure that there would be something for everyone, and so she brought in different producers who were able to extract different things from her vocally and artistically.
Madonna, like Bowie in the 70s, was smart enough to move on to new images so that people didn't get tired of her. But these new images were always interesting and of the moment.
Her compilation album, Something to Remember, released in the following year, continued the trend towards a less strident, more mainstream sound. In that year, she also took time out from her recording schedule to attend the charity benefit for Parkinson's disease, where the guest of honor was a childhood hero of hers, Muhammad Ali. On a less happy note, Madonna found herself a victim of her own celebrity when she was stalked by a fanatic, Robert Hoskins, who had deluded himself that he was her husband. He twice breached security on her home, and on the second occasion when he got violent, the security guard shot him. At the subsequent trial, the judge insisted that Madonna attend to face her accuser. Hoskins drew a 10-year sentence, but Madonna continued to have nightmares about the time she woke up to find him outside her window. The good news for Madonna towards the end of 1995 was that she had landed the title role in the film version of Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Evita. She had always wanted the role of Eva Perón and had fought hard for it during the years that the project had been knocking about Hollywood waiting for a green light. They faced fierce opposition from some sections of society in Argentina. The Peronists were particularly vocal.
But truthfully, I think that the negative remarks that people have made are based on things that people don't know and don't understand. And I urge you all to form your opinions after you see the movie.
During the filming, there were rumors about Madonna and Antonio Banderas. His girlfriend, Melanie Griffiths, was unhappy that her man might fall victim to the predatory vamp and turned up on set to keep an eye on him. But Madonna actually had more on her mind than dalliance. Just before she went to Budapest, where the Basilica steps were being used to film the scene where Eva Perón has an audience with the Pope, she rang Alan Parker to tell him she was pregnant. The lucky man finally turned out to be Carlos Leon, who she met while out jogging in Central Park. And Madonna announced on her 37th birthday that they were having a baby together.
He's very shy.
They had their ups and downs, but parted amicably enough. Maybe there was a deal. Both parties have since avoided saying anything that would cause distress to their daughter. Lourdes Maria Ciccone Leon was born on the 14th of October 1996, weighing in at 6 pounds 9 ounces. Press interest was, of course, immense. But the tone of the articles about her began to soften immediately. There were cynics who sneered that having a baby was just an astute career move. But most were impressed by what they saw as a genuine transformation from material girl to maternal girl.
Please, please, from the bottom of my heart, stop sending baby gifts to my home. There's no room.
From sort of a professional standpoint or the standpoint of her public image, I think that being a mother gave her another new persona.
1 month after the birth, Madonna was dieting hard and exercising to get herself back in shape. There was work to do promoting Evita at its various openings worldwide. And she didn't care a bit that wherever she went, her daughter Lola was upstaging her. The movie was a critical and commercial success. Madonna's performance was lower key than many had expected. She won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a comedy or musical.
Amount of work. I feel very privileged and very lucky.
It's got to be special too, not only you, but the film, co-stars.
Yeah, it's great for all of us. Because everybody really put their heart and soul into the movie.
So are you exhausted or ready to party?
Both. Thank you.
1997 saw Madonna spending more time in England. I have really fallen in love with the place, she gushed. I've made some excellent friends and even thought about my daughter going to school here. The British papers showed their approval by starting to call her Madge. It was part of a spiritual blossoming for Madonna. She'd already begun to take an interest in the Kabbalah, a mystical form of Judaism that emphasizes the link between the self and the universe. And now her interest expanded to take in Ashtanga yoga, fast and aerobic, with every movement synchronized with breathing. Since discovering the discipline, it has supplemented conventional gym work in Madonna's fitness regime. Her reason for being in England was to push forwards to the next stage of her musical career, another reinvention, another astute choice of producer to give her the sound that suited her new, more spiritual image. He was electronic ambient genius William Orbit.
She saw William Orbit coming over the horizon before others did. Other people hadn't realized that this avant-garde young man could make big pop music.
Ray of Light was widely thought to be her best album since Like a Prayer. Sales of 17 million confirmed it. Fans loved the high-energy techno sound of the title track and the trancy new age qualities that Orbit introduced. 4 of its singles were hits. Not bad for a pop star in her 40s.
She's never sounded as good, I don't think, as she does on that album, and it's because her voice worked really well with that kind of electronic warmth. Ray of Light also coincided with kind of the emergence of her new spirituality, and a lot of the songs on the record derive from that.
Since Evita, Madonna hasn't had any film offers that she felt she could accept. But The Next Best Thing appealed to her with its story of a yoga instructor who has a baby by her best friend, played by Rupert Everett, who happens to be gay. At the press launch, Madonna was actually 5 months pregnant by British director Guy Ritchie. She had the father in tow, but she didn't have much to say about their plans.
So move on. I don't know. Not saying.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
The Next Best Thing wasn't a great career move. The film was a critical and commercial flop, and Madonna won a Razzie for Worst Actress. Not that her fans cared a jot. Sales of her next album, Music, proved it. Once again, she collaborated with William Orbit and added electronica wizard Mirwais Ahmadzai to the mix so as to give the album a more European dance style.
It was new. And it's amazing that a woman over 40 years old was still interested in making new sounds.
Her enlisting people like William Orbit or Mirwais or whoever is not just opportunistic, it's also because she hears this stuff and thinks, wow, this is cool, I'd like to make a record that sounds like this. And because she's Madonna, she can call them up and say, I want to make a record with you, and they say, okay.
Guy Ritchie was alongside her once again at the bash she threw at the Catch One Club to launch the disc in September 2000. By that time, their son, Rocco, had been born.
This is a fat club and it's a fat neighborhood.
You love it?
I'm loving it.
And you've been here before, haven't you? Yeah?
Oh yeah, many times.
Richie, writer and director of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, is 10 years Madonna's junior. He's socially well-connected, a distant cousin of Sarah Ferguson. But like Madonna, has painted a modest social background for himself. It fits better with the hard man image he likes to portray as a director of gangster movies.
Madonna commented that when she met Guy Ritchie, it took me 40 years to find my soulmate. She saw in him everything that she'd ever liked about men. He was very street smart, he was a lad's lad, hung out in pubs. So all of these things together were almost like the identikit Madonna man, really.
This time, Madonna decided to make her man a husband as well as a father. But she was determined there would be no repeat of the media circus that surrounded her wedding to Sean Penn. And she relied on Ritchie to arrange it. The ceremony was to be held at Skibo Castle in Scotland, and after the arrival at Inverness by private jet, where she was greeted by the sound of the pipes playing Like a Virgin, the only photo opportunity allowed to the press was after Rocco's christening at Dornoch Cathedral. Sting, his wife Trudy Styler, Rupert Everett, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Stella McCartney were in the congregation, but it was baby Rocco who stole the show. If the media were hoping for pictures of the wedding, they were disappointed. Security at the castle, actually a very exclusive country club, was tight. All the press got to see were the guests arriving and leaving. Mobile phones were banned in the grounds, televisions and radios were removed from the rooms, and guests got to enjoy the celebrations in total isolation from the outside world for 5 days. And Guy's security arrangements held. The paparazzi got nothing they could use. It had been a perfect wedding. The couple didn't get much time to enjoy a leisurely honeymoon. Life goes on, and Guy had a new movie to promote. At the premiere, his wife came along and forced a smile when she answered intrusive questions about married life.
Fabulous.
What's the
Guy?
best thing?
The wrong answer,
Is it
sweetheart.
fabulous?
Yeah, it's fabulous.
What's the best thing about married life for you two?
I mean, you know, it's magnificent. You know.
No, I can call him my husband now, not my boyfriend. It's much more interesting.
And she had a new tour to do, the first in 8 years. Getting her 43-year-old body back in shape was tough, but Madonna relished the challenge. Drowned World played to 47 venues in the US and Europe to audiences that eventually totaled 750,000. Clearly, for the majority of her fans, Madonna had lost none of her magic. But for some, the magic was beginning to wane.
42, 43, it's over the hill now.
Thank you.
Dismissing her as over the hill was a little unfair, given that Madonna refused to play it safe like the Rolling Stones and simply do a harvest tour, relying on all the old favorites. Most of the songs chosen were drawn from her most recent CDs. Meticulous planning of sets and routines, lighting and staging, costumes and logistics ensured that the tour would be a success. Confirmation of Madonna's iconic status was provided by the Sotheby's online auction of Madonna memorabilia in July 2001. Costumes, handwritten lyrics, demo tapes, photographs of early performances, even rejection letters were all snapped up by people who were anxious to have a piece, however tiny, of their idol. In 2002, Madonna made her London stage debut in David Williamson's Up for Grabs, a play inspired by shenanigans in the art world. Critics agreed that it wasn't Williamson's strongest work, and Madonna drew disappointing notices. American Life was Madonna's new offering for 2003. Mirwais Ahmadzai produced the album, a blend of acoustic and techno music. Sales were hit by a controversy over the video for the single, which was filmed in the run-up to the Second Iraq War and drew protests that it was unpatriotic. Madonna, who famously never backs down, actually withdrew the video on the grounds that it was open to misinterpretation.
American Life was significant to Madonna. I don't think it's necessarily significant to even her most diehard of fans, and certainly not to the general public, because, again, about consistency, I don't think it really holds together quite as well as Ray of Light did. And everyone was just so sensitive about what was going on in the Middle East, and I don't think they were ready to hear about it in a pop song, or certainly not in a music video.
Here's a woman who had taken on the Catholic Church and would do so again without fear. And yet the Bush juggernaut was so strong that it steamrolled even Madonna.
Ironically, in the year when she fell out of favor with patriotic America, the New York branch of Madame Tussauds honored her in wax. The dummy may have lacked energy, but the pose was pure Madonna. She also branched out into children's fiction. The English Roses was a far cry from her previous book, Sex. She wrote it with Lola in mind, and all the profits went to support the Spirituality Foundation for Kids, a branch of the Los Angeles Kabbalah Center. It was touted as the biggest multi-language release in publishing history. Madonna even tried out her French.
Voyons d'abord ce qu'elles ne sont pas. Un bois de chocolat, une équipe de football, des fleurs de jardin. So far, so good? That's great. Okay, here. Thank you very much.
You know, that's almost become part of the package of being a celebrity parent, is at some point you write a children's book. And so she did it, and I don't even know how well it sold. It probably sold some, but if it did, it was because it was by Madonna. The literary world is not going to be a realm that Madonna conquers, I don't think.
Lola herself got to play a starring role in 2004 when Madonna took her to Great Ormond Street Hospital for Sick Children in London to cheer up the patients with a reading from her second book, Latza de Kasha, another Kabbalah-inspired morality tale about losing wealth but gaining a friend.
So my throat is a bit sore, and I'm supposed to actually not be talking very much because I have a concert tomorrow. So Lola has volunteered to read the story to you.
Once upon a time, in a very small village, tucked away between...
How she found time to write is a mystery, as in the same year she embarked on her Reinvention tour.
Well, it's fun writing all of the books. I love writing for children because you can use your imagination and break all the rules, and kids are a more open audience, so... I have a documentary that I just finished as well, coming out, yeah. It's about me. Yeah, it's a tour documentary. That's affecting my music.
Madonna fans hadn't had an album of new material to rave about for almost 2 years. So the arrival of Confessions on a Dance Floor in 2005 was a major event. It was in every sense a comeback album, a return to form after her disappointing American Life, and an unashamed return to her disco dance roots.
I'm so grateful and happy right now. I had an amazing time, and it was over like that, too fast.
Fittingly, for the London launch, she chose Coco, the club where she made her first appearance. 1,500 lucky fans got to see her performance. Others were just happy to be there.
Been a big follower of her for years and years, like 15 years, and love all her stuff.
And I spent the night here on the pavement while the rain was pouring on us in the morning, and to get my place, and I had one place, and I will get in tonight, and I'm very happy about that.
Her gay fans got their own special gig at the GAY Astoria.
So yeah, I got here at 5 and I was like, there's a queue. We hugged each other and we've done laps up and down the street.
Confessions shows every sign of turning out to be one of her most popular albums. So far, it has spawned 4 hit singles, including Hung Up, which topped the charts in 43 countries and has sold close to 9 million copies, making it the 4th most successful single of all time. The tour set a record for the highest gross ever by a female artist.
She is her own director-producer. She remains interested in her own career, and if it means keeping fit, well, by George, she'll keep fit.
You would not expect Madonna to give up just because someone else says she should give up. She may not want to go on, ad infinitum wearing sparkly leotards and, you know, corsets and such like. But there's no reason whatsoever for her to stop if she's still fit and she's still got something to offer and she's still making great records. People will want to see her touring, and there's no harm in that at all.
In December 2005, the Confessions Tour took Madonna to Tokyo, the first time she'd been there in 12 years. Most of them were ecstatic to see her. Just in case they weren't sure what they were getting, she spelt out the philosophy behind the album.
I wanted to make a record that people could put on when they were getting ready to go out, having a party, working out, and that driving in a car, and that from beginning to end, you just wanted to dance for 1 hour nonstop.
The following May, fans in Los Angeles proved that they too had kept the faith.
She's just been around forever, and she just rocks no matter what she does. And like, people fade away, she hasn't faded. People love her.
In Cardiff, opinions were a little more divided.
Everything. She's a legend. She's just bloody amazing, isn't she?
Excellent.
Madonna's fab, but she's old and past it. She's totally outnumbered her.
Never one to avoid controversy, Madonna provoked a wave of press hysteria when she and Guy decided to adopt David Banda, a child from Malawi. Her harshest critics accused her of jumping on the adoption bandwagon, just another celebrity trying to make herself look good.
I think she's wrong, to be honest. I don't know, because I don't know how she did it. If it was legit, it would be fine, but if it wasn't...
She might be famous and be a millionaire and stuff. She should still be entitled to adopt a child or whatever she wants to do.
Okay.
I think we have put her up on a pedestal to watch her every move with such precision that something like adopting a child becomes this media event when maybe she didn't mean it for it to be that way, but it became that way. I don't think Madonna was jumping on a bandwagon. I think she really sincerely believed in what she was doing.
Whatever else is certain, the Madonna story isn't over yet. Without a doubt, there will be more controversies and more startling reinventions to come. Her career has been an extraordinary and exhilarating switchback ride from relatively humble beginnings to mega stardom. Everyone knows her face and style, but it may all change tomorrow. She is always one step ahead, eluding our grasp. And when all is said and done, is she really Queen of Pop or a modest talent brilliantly marketed? Just what will be her legacy?
If you look at the pop charts before Madonna, the dominant voice in popular music is male. Pop charts after Madonna, female. She did bring about that change.
Her real legacy is as a performer and as a presence, you know, as this sort of self-created media phenomenon.
When history books are finally written about music, 50 years from now, Madonna will still be a primary force.
No one can survive at the top of her game, as Madonna has done, without talent. She has talents in many directions. She may not be the greatest actress in the world, but she's definitely made a huge contribution to popular culture, and it's something that goes way beyond marketing.
How do you manage to stay on top?
How do I manage? I don't know. I work hard and I just keep moving forward no matter what happens.
And what would you say to people who thought that you weren't going to, make that? What would you say to them?
I would say, so there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.